want to grow as a grower? Are you tired of being put to sleep by your educational growcasts? Are you tired of hearing about products you don't fucking want and can't afford? Are you tired of being told how you should grow? Hi, I'm Johnny Apple, and joining me is everyone's favorite amphibian, the Reverend Pirate Frog. Join us as we sift through the bullshit on the internet and try to get better as growers. This is your average grow. Sup, fuckers? Welcome back to the newest episode of The Circle. I'm back. That's right. Your fucking square triangle last week or 2 weeks ago. Let's get this shit fucking back in order. What's up, Stoney?
We missed you, dude. I got on here and I was
like,
I
could tell. It was obvious.
Mm-hmm. I had, a certain corner to the edge of my smile that didn't quite make it since you weren't there, man. But we made it all the way through. Fucking missed you, dude. But we're back.
Good,
You're back.
Good.
We knew you were coming back. So
good. What about you, Howling? Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to see you again.
I'm glad to see me too, because I'm good looking compared to you guys.
Yeah, that's right. Our listening audience doesn't get the opportunity to see this smile that we get to see.
No, it's great. Padre, how are we?
Much better now. They forced me to record without you last time. It was horrible. And I was going to compliment you on the sensual entry into the episode. I was like, ooh, this is fucking audio theater going on. And then you ruined it immediately by like, what's up, motherfucker?
And I just whacked my mic. So, man, I mean, the audio engineer on this one really is going to... Oh, wait, it's me. So
whoever the fuck edits this is a prick anyway.
Well, I never ask for anything more than average from us. So here we go. We deliver every single time. It's
What's really awesome is I've already forgot where I'm supposed to go from here. Good thing I took some notes. Oh, wait, Johnny opens and then it all gets gibberish because I'm on that skunk number one still, boys.
Yeah, baby. I was going to say you're more than halfway through that stick in there.
I see Johnny opening, welcoming, cool, and then the rest is I can't. Cool. So here we are.
I'm glad that you wrote down cool. I wouldn't have known how you felt otherwise after Johnny opens and it was just open-ended. I wouldn't have been able to sleep last tonight.
Well, I'm super irritated right now, so the fact that I'm in a good mood is good. Because I had one of my hella jellies herm out on me and I'm stressed out about it, man. One of the 9. And when I did, I went in there with a weed whacker and I took out 2 more plants with that one that hermed because they were just they got taken out by the other ones and we're basically going to end up larf. So after
Slash
that,
and burn, dude.
Yeah, I think there's 6 plants of the 9 left in there because it was man. I don't know if it was
earth as well or Jesus.
I did, and then I got carried into the fire. Anyways, herms, man. What do you guys? I mean, do you guys deal with those in autoflowers? I know, Stoney, you don't really grow photos or haven't really considered that yet. So, have you dealt with herms and?
Oh, yeah. No, I've never come across them. I've been pretty fortunate. I know it's kind of the dreaded the term, so I'm really curious. So,
well, I'll just answer that and say I was trimming last night and I found a seed in my galaxy brain. But in
I've
that
been
case,
finding seeds.
I'm just stoked. I'm just like, cool. I'm gonna plant it, see what happens. I didn't find any at more, so it didn't fully seed me out or anything. So why do I give a shit?
So I'm not getting fully seeded out, but I did find some seeds in my banana milk from the last one, and I also had a herm in that tent too.
Same tent?
I think I caught this one a little bit earlier. No, different tent.
Oh, okay.
So I got this in the brand new Gorilla tent.
Oh, yeah, the light one.
1 of 9 herming, so I don't think it's like a light leak or something like that. It may be stress issue from having the fan on it because it was closest to the fan, but I've been conscious with that fan and moving it. I think it was a genetic thing.
If a fan caused it, I'm going to have a few choice words with the breeder there. Okay.
Yeah, with Humboldt there, yeah.
Let's go back. Let's circle back because let's maybe set the stage a little bit more context. Because we're probably going to have some listeners that maybe have not had herms before. If you've been growing autoflowers and, we're in the feminine spot of it. I haven't had them. I haven't seen them come across in the year. So let's go back. Let's circle back. So when we hear that term herm, what does that mean? Like if you're standing next to me in a grow shop and I'm looking around saying I'm here for the first time and someone starts talking about a herm, what does that mean? What am I thinking?
So my plant is a feminized seed, number one. So I knew it was going to be a female plant right off the get. So I am growing a female plant. When it starts to develop male traits, that's called hermaphrodite. It's called hermaphroditing or something like that. And we just call it herming.
So in effect, it changes.
Hermaphroditic.
Right. So it changes its sex, right? So we started off with feminine because we're buying that. So if you're buying these seeds, especially if you're thinking about buying autoflower seeds, more often than not, you're seeing the feminized, right? But there is a new trend of the reg seeds that are coming down the pike. So keep your eyes out, right? But if you see these autoflowers, right, and you're expecting it to be a female because it's feminized, and then all of a sudden you start to see these little characteristics. Let's talk first maybe a little about some of the characteristics, because you're going to want to catch these fairly early from everything that I'm hearing and fearing about. So we're knowing now that it starts to switch the sex, right? So it's probably happening right in that little corner elbow where the fan leaves are coming out. And you're seeing that one little kind of pistil come out. Is that where it starts to happen from?
Yeah, basically you start to see it like right in the crotch, right where your node starts to come up. You'll see it develop right where you start to see that first dual-haired bulb, pistil looking. You'll see that it comes out, but it looks like a honker with like the longest head you've ever seen in your life. That's what it ends up looking like.
Jeremy,
let's be a little bit more descriptive around honkers.
Jeremy from Bill.
Donkey dick looking. It looks
like the biggest dick Johnny's ever seen.
There we go. I was really just trying to bring that out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. In the Army, I guess they're just all packing smaller than.
That's not how it looks in my pants.
It's not just to you can get those issues late in flower too, right? As a last struggle, as it's dying, basically trying to pass on its genes, which is often more the case if you in autoflowers if you basically taken it too long, or not too long. Too long is the wrong word. Sometimes you just took it long, or it went long enough, and it's not mind. It's in its cells that decided to, I'm going to try and save my genes, and threw out some pollen, obviously, right?
So not just happening early on in flower, no, because that's always when I start watching for it, because everyone's fearful of it. But so if I'm hearing correctly, we're seeing in the beginning, and it can happen at the end too.
Oh yeah. I had it. Yeah. With a recent run with Shangri-La, week 5 of flower, one of mine threw. Well, I'm sorry, week 1 of flower, one of them I completely yanked from the garden because it started herming right then. I'm like, you're fucking gone. At week 1, you're just done. And then I had one at week 5 below the canopy. Something must have stressed it, and there was a couple nanners down there, and I plucked them, and I still harvested. It's turned out beautiful, but. Yeah, it still wanted to try to go that way at week 5.
Mm-hmm. So we're hearing the term nanners, right?
Nanners.
That's another set. Is that that's just like, we think of another fun term for what Johnny was calling honkers, right?
The big old.
So any other euphemism?
Big old
any euphemism that you can compare to, related to whatever size you need to, Rev. It's
what he's talking about is the main attraction at the donkey shows in Tijuana.
Right, so
I'm the main attraction at the donkey shows in Tijuana. What are you talking about?
True.
We're not talking about the rider, double. John. We're talking about the donkey.
I have to pay to see my own show.
It's an art performance. That's
talking about getting fucked.
So we see.
Stoney so regrets signing up to be a member of the circle. I'd say Howling too, but this is his fault too.
Someone has to sprinkle for the cats to come around.
But yes, so nanners is
circling back to the nanners, right? Back to our show.
Is another term.
Circling it back, right? Another nanners. What are
now?
Some other terms
when I think of nanners, I think differently though. Like when I see dual sex trait, when I see herming, I see them differently. You see them in the lowers. When I start to think nanners for sure, I'm starting to see those later on in flower where they're throwing up through the bud. So when I think nanners, when somebody say nanners, I'm like, that's like when you're late on in flower and you get them showing up through the bud. Yeah. But even in the male traits, when you're seeing in the hermaphroditic traits, they do look like a penis with a banana on the end. It comes out like this, and then there's a banana on the end. That's what they look like. A fucking group of bananas hanging.
Yeah, Jeremy from Billisoy called it, like, you see kind of like a circle kind of like has an overbite. And there's like this like little, and you guys can't see the video that I'm doing, but there's just this
keep
little,
doing it.
There's just this little over.
Slower.
Overbite, you like it. But
Move
yeah,
your
it's
hand
like,
slower
it's
so they
like
can hear you.
instead of seeing like the pear shape where you're gonna have pistils come out, you have the pear shape that has like the overbite coming across it, and you totally can see it. And that's how the first time I ever saw it, I'm like, that's exactly what it is. I don't know how people say they can see it early on and 6 weeks into veg and so I've never been able to, but until week 5 of flower, I'm like, holy fuck, that's them. I'm like, I have to like laser zap them right off. Like that's it.
The good thing.
Let me stay on that for a second because I want to. This is something that's always kind of been on my mind. Is because I've heard a lot about herming and watching for and characteristics, and I studied those like even down to like you can go onto the Goog and find really cool old school hand drawn anatomical drawings of it. It's really easy to see. Like the information's out there, so don't trust us. Like go do your own research. Find 2 or 3 different places, as I always say. But you can go down that alley and go to the research of it. But when I was growing up, like we had bags of weed, right? So I'm going to say going all the way back. So we're talking pre-century here. I'll date myself well enough and feel comfortable with it. But in my bag of weed, it was the most common thing to sit down for the first 5 to 10 minutes and pick seeds and stems out of it, right? Now seeds, as we talk about herm, so we're talking about eventually these things will make seeds to it. Tell me where I'm gonna like make the connection for me why it was, granted, I know I was smoking ditch weed, right? And I know we've come very far from that. But have we gone so far away from it that the first sign of it that we now slash and burn, back to what you were saying before, Johnny, did like as soon as we see these things, do we start tearing out 1, 2 of them? Help me make that leap, right? Because I don't, that connection's hard for me. So why is it that like a bag of weed with seeds in it is so horrible? Or is it just because we are connoisseurs? And we
have you ever smelt a seed burning?
Well, it's absolutely, man. I mean, I grew up in the 90s.
It's terrible.
Like,
that's why seeds suck in your weed.
Well, that was 10% of my sack, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to sit there and it was like, there's a real question
problem.
of like, should we smoke the stems? Right.
That's the problem, Stoney, is it's not so much that you get a seed or 2 that sucks. It's the fact that you have the potential, if that nanner starts throwing a lot of pollen, to seed out your entire grow.
So now we talk about
chaos.
we're talking about why it's important to us as growers.
Yeah, you have to pay attention as much as I don't want to ever, because you could just walk in there and go, man, because especially late in flower, you can notice it very obviously, right? You're like, obviously that's like a new growth in the flower and it gets bright green or something. It's pretty noticeable later in flower, but sometimes you'll just be like, fuck it, I'm chopping in 2 weeks.
And sometimes we see it in a dispensary weed, right?
Yeah, a lot.
It shows up in dispensary
I've gotten more seeds from dispensary weed than I've gotten from my own. Like it's actually pretty shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, I get it. And if you look at it, like you look at a bouquet of roses, that's a female. It is showing you all the smells and the looks and everything you want out of a rose. And the male is all just about spreading seed. So that's why we don't want seeds in our stuff. Like, yes, you can get seeds. You can grind it up. It smokes. It'll get you where you need to go. It just might need a little more of it. You might not enjoy the popping and the smell of it, but it's going to get you there. So the male is not the purpose of doing that. Its purpose is breeding and getting more of the same thing. The female is what really kind of brings it all out, just like a rose. Exactly. And that's why we tried it. We want to get the roses. We don't want the male pollen. We want the roses. And
I'll say it right now. I'm extremely sexist, and I only want female plants.
Well,
when I'm growing for personal head stash, I don't want to have to worry about pollen.
No.
So sorry, it's if it herms, that's why if it herms, you gotta be worrisome about it. There are some genetics that beforehand are prone to herming that you have to take into consideration. Am I going to do this?
I grew Ethos Banana Daddy. It was one of my first ones first autos I grown, and I ended up having a seed out of it. And my wife's like, "Oh, you got to grow this again." I'm like, "The fuck I am!
I don't want that."
Like, no, get that away. If I grew the feminized seed and it produced that, I don't want to grow that. Like, no way.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's.
But
at the very
I wonder
least,
now, because think about it, a feminized seed is created by reversing or hermaphroditing a female plant. So
it is. I mean, it is likely to be a feminized seed, right? I think it's like
that's what I would think. It would likely be a feminized seed. Number
overwhelmingly
one,
likely. However,
have traits from
You might have hermaphroditic traits if it was in its
might not.
Yeah, if it was in its genealogy, right? Like you would
Right.
think that if it had the traits to herm, it would pass it on. But also, a lot of herming isn't a genetic thing; it's a survival thing, or
Yeah.
it's a stress thing.
Condition,
So
right?
yeah, it's a condition
It's like
thing.
a goddamn frog. It just wants to
Well,
keep
don't-
reproducing with its own
well,
sex
yeah,
and
it's
keep going.
the frogs, as opposed to everything in nature, apparently just want to reproduce.
Yes.
And so
But
it,
yeah,
sound,
that is what it is.
it
It's
sounds to me
as
like
simple as that.
it's a response. It's a
Mhm.
response by our
Yes.
plant, right?
Yeah.
And so whether or not it's being stressed and moved into a different spot, there are probably some conditions. And let's get into that because I think we've peeled away kind of the base layers of it, right? So anyone that's joining us that is new to growing and starting to hear about this, hopefully that gave him some good kind of context to it. But let's dig in a little bit more because everything that I heard comes down to really from a connoisseur's perspective of which is what we are, right? Plus we're growers, so the efficiency and the effectiveness of what we have in our tents, we don't want it to get hermed out because it's going to affect the quality of it. Let's get into maybe where some of the conditions that might create that, since we hear that we all kind of are aligned, but it's a response of some sort by the plant, whether it be genetically for it to naturally want to do it because if it's parents and grandparent line, right? Or it's something that we do. What are some of the things that could contribute to this happening? Right? What's going to push something over the edge?
So
John Howling, if you want to go
no,
first.
yeah. So I think that everything is born with a certain amount of gender spoons, and you're going to take away from that. And when you try to feminize things through reversal and STS spray and so forth, you're taking away some of those spoons from its gender, and every bit of stress that you can impose is gonna try to lead towards the opposite effect that you really want. So it might be light leaks, it might be temperature, it might be VPD being off or nutrients being, it's all these things that kind of take it away until the point the plant wants to be like, fuck you, you're trying to kill me. I'm going to try to survive here. I'm going to throw some balls and pollinate some shit. And so and it can come from bad genetics. Like, there are some genetics that I have found, some breeders I have found that are more prone to herming. They may have rigorously bred those lines to not want to do that, to have that survival trait to them. And some of them feel really self-conscious and really have to try to replicate here because they just can't put up with the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it really just comes down to that.
And that's a hard swallow for, if you're finding out 6-7 weeks into your cycle.
It blows.
You put a lot of effort.
Yeah.
You put
especially
money,
if you've paid a lot of money into it. Yeah.
And that's a really difficult one.
I think there's a lot to be said too about not necessarily what causes the stress, but when it stresses, right? Like in the plant's life, if you cause a stress at a certain part of that plant's life, especially when it's just like if you just flip, right? You're more prone to herm then, especially because you're introducing a lot more hormones and stuff like that. So any amount of stress to your plant is negative, but it's more negative at certain points as opposed to like, if you stress it out towards the end of flower, you're less likely to have any issue, right?
But
that's
what I think I found.
Yeah,
that's what I think I found with my banana milks. I think I introduced too much stress by trimming them heavily one big time, like a week into flower. I was like, oh shit, these are bushy. Whereas this time I let the hella jellies go, but I had one herm last time. This one I was like, I'm letting them go. I'm not introducing that stress. When they're in flower, I'm not trimming them to 3 weeks into flower.
Are hella jelly photos?
Yes.
Yes.
From Humboldt Seed Company.
Feminized photos. Yep.
I started reading some people's reports of this. Like some people are very particular about what days they'll start defoliating and lollipopping and stuff. And like sometimes it's like 18 to 21 days. Like they're really adamant. Like you have to do it then because there's a hormone that the plant produces when it says shit, my shit's getting chopped off.
Something's happening.
Yeah, something's going on here and I got to do something. And there is a time where that happens where it's really bad. And there's a time where it's like, it's kind of annoyance. And like, I might have to trim off a couple nanners, but whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Padre, you've probably got the most outside experience, I would imagine, between the four of us here. Do you think that herming is a trait that necessarily happens indoors specifically, or are we going to see those traits happening in outdoor grows as well?
You can get it in outdoor, of course. But I think a lot of the stresses that, like, because a lot of the plant's life, you have to understand outdoors. If you start them outdoors, they have no choice but to live in that environment. So you're not getting a sudden stress, unless, of course, you're also prone to nature. So you can get, I mean, everything I say here, you can be done away with one storm, right? That causes all. But indoors, you can make a lot more mistakes because you're a lot more involved and you're relying on a lot of other people, right? The basis of providing water, sunshine, and nutrients outdoors exists solely in nature's hands in some places. Whereas indoors, if you forget to water at the right time with the right genetics and it gets too dry, you might have fucked up, and it could have been shit. I got stuck in traffic. I'm not saying, of course, it's that close of a call, but it's just, I would have to say indoor because of the variables. You'll see it more often. Whether or not that's true, I guess it depends where you live. Where I live in Southern California, as Stoney can attest, who just came and visited me and he wants to pretend like he didn't.
Filled back up, man.
Yeah, it was
Those
amazing.
canyons were incredible.
Yeah, it's a pretty consistent environment. So the stress levels, because
to that point, when we grow indoors, we have extremes, right? We push our LED lights as far as we possibly can, right?
Yeah.
We're
force feeding nutrients most
right?
of the time if you're doing anything,
It's a turn the light on, turn the light off. Most of us don't have dimmers that build into it. I know they're coming new technology and all, but there's all your conditions are spot on. It's that way all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When we grow outside, the change happens all the time. We get days of sunshine, days of shade. You get days where there's extra rain that comes and the nutrients get into it. And the cycling happens at a lot different of a pace. We have all of those variables very tightly dialed in as connoisseurs and growers, right? And so when we throw one variable out of whack, you're going to throw all these levers all over the place. So, it sounds like herming can happen anytime, throughout it. And of course it shuts everything down as soon as it happens because we don't want that pollen to start happening. So to that point, let me ask that. So if you start to see those nanners happening, how soon will pollen start to really form and create the potential for havoc in your tents? So if you miss one, how long is it going to take?
I don't know. It's pretty quick.
Man. I've seen them. Really? Yeah. Once you start to see them, especially if they're a mature plant, they can open pretty quickly. That's what they're for. That's why males grow taller quicker. Because the tendency is for them to be above the females, so their pollen just drops.
That's why my Shangri-La I had at week 1, when it started showing something of a herm trait, I was like, you're fucking gone. This early, you're going to go so quick that you're gone. You're out of here. And then my other lady that at week 5, I saw some of them. And luckily I caught it right away. But if I picked off the little sacs, I could squeeze them and I could see like, shit, this thing was ready to drop and this was going to cause some havoc. Yeah.
By the nature of the type of plant it is, its pollen is quite successful too. So you can really do damage, man. Yeah, it can be bad, but it's also not to just knock it. You have to consider it from nature's perspective. It's pretty fucking magical that a plant can basically be like, fuck no, these genetics must go on and self fucking seed itself,
Now and that's a perfect segue to something else they can do too, is they can grow roots off of a branch.
What?
Yeah.
Say again? Say that again.
That was a good segue, dude.
Off of a branch. Not only can they throw male or female parts, they can also start to root themselves off of an above ground piece.
Like fucking strawberries.
Time out. Do you know what I would call that practice, Johnny? I would call that practice cloning. What a fucking genius.
Almost like you could cut it and clone it.
Holy shit. So let me guess, you took some cutting.
Unless you're me.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did they go?
I took some cutting. Well, I died. You heard about they didn't appreciate the lack of water changes in the easy cloner, but we moved on. We're past it. And then, today, while I was ripping herms out of the ground, I was like, well, let's try again. So I took one cut from 4 plants now, and I'm going to try the bag method. I put them each in a peat cube and a little bit of starter hormone and wetted them down, stuck them in a bag, and got them in the cloning tent just kind of sitting there. But Let's see if I can do it. What do you guys do? Rev, do you ever do any cloning? Have you done cloning? What's your method?
Yeah, I've done a lot of cloning. When we were doing experiments, we would clone and use the same plants to try and maintain the same like baseline going forward. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, aloe, dude. Almost with like all things in life, aloe is my dip, and I really want to start taking and doing more clones. I know you and I have talked about we want to set up a system to start sending clones to each other. And I think we're going to get a whole YAG system there so we can exclude Howling just to really bully him and make our sales feel better.
You know what I saw just the other day at our grow shop? They've got clone shippers, right? So it sounds like there's a really cool, I saw them. They're just a little clamshell, like flip top black plastic that creates a nice little shipping container. So, and I'd seen them before with some taller kind of tube like things. So
these motherfuckers that have stolen so much from the homebrewing community is hilarious. The way that they're shipping clones is what people have been shipping bottles in forever. The way that they do like bubble hash, they're starting to incorporate homebrewing equipment to do it. It's so funny how much of a crossover this is becoming.
Easy
like
branch.
I
right?
saw these shippers, and I'm like, I've been shipping bottles of beer this way. Like, what are you doing? And then there's like a few people on Instagram that are doing the bubble hash scene, and they're doing a lot of homebrewing equipment to do it. And I'm like, fuckers, like this is all I've been using. I have a whole basement full of this shit.
I was just about to say, if you look in the market right now, there's probably a ton of used homebrewing equipment because of the trend and trade that happened.
It's so wonderful. Like years. It gives me goosebumps to see the crossover of these worlds. Like just to see the equipment crossover. It's like it's just awesome.
Well, I mean, it's like chemistry crossover too, right? I mean, so many things we use, the fermented aspects of things, the grains, the malts, all those sorts of
things. If you think about the process of making labs, right? That's the first step in cheese making.
Yep.
Yeah, like
and you use what's left over, the way that's left over. I mean,
exactly.
And
there's not a lot that you can do with it.
I'm watching like Windy City Rosin and these other companies that they're like using all the brewing equipment that I have in my house. So like I'm soon to be using that for like fermented extracts and stuff.
Oh,
like, this is awesome. Like
it's gonna be amazing.
It's just really great to watch. Like I've had two hobbies cross over, and it's just like I can't brew anymore. But like I'm seeing like, oh shit, my brewing equipment's not obsolete anymore. Like this is like
repurposing,
first class shit here. It's like
all upcycling, man.
Exactly, upcycling. You don't feel so bad about the money that you spent. You're like, no, honey, I used it for two hobbies. No, it's fantastic. And if all you got to do is you got to find a brewery where you can get your rice holes, and they'll let you use their machinery every once in a while, and then it's the perfect symbiotic relationship.
It's beautiful.
It is awesome.
There's a few local breweries here that I really love. They open up like brew pubs, and I really love just the whole ethos of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk to them, like, give me some of your stuff. Like, I can make bokashi, and I can have rice hulls. Like, we can create this whole like, hey, you guys get into some cannabis here? Like, we can create this whole like situation going on.
At the very least, something that they're wasting can be useful and repurposed for something, and they might even start advertising that they do it because it is just a good.
There's a woman in the fine dining food scene. She does chicken, and she worked to kind of create this connection between chefs and restaurants and the chicken that they're serving. So she's got the most incredible breed that you can imagine from flavor perspective. It's super delicate, rich, the most like corn creamy yellow fat just sitting over it's she does it through a lot of different brands. One of them that kind of helped her mainstream it was through D'Artagnan. But they're a pretty large scale. They do a lot of different sort of poultry, but she's very high end. And what she started doing was connecting with some of the big name chefs in New York City to go to them and purchase their scraps to feed the chickens. Right, so these
and just upcycle, close the loop.
So it's a total loop with these chickens. So they're receiving everything back. They're using every bit in these restaurants.
And that's how like my favorite brew pub in the city is. It's Horse Thief Hollow, and they recycle a lot of their grains to feed the cows that are at the it's like 115th and Pulaski. It is this agricultural college type place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really cool.
And they like feed the grains to them, and they get the cows back so they can cook it up in the brew pub. And it's like this whole cycle. Like, I just need to get in and be like,
it creates the biome. Like,
yeah,
the very same bacterial things that are going on, and the advantages that it does for our plants and our flowers does well in the guts of these animals, right?
Yeah.
Everyone loves the corn fed, but the sad reality is, they really put them on corn fed for those last 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Prior to that, they're out on the range eating normal foods that corn stacks it on, but their stomachs can't handle it. They can't be out there for that long. So you feed them these sorts of grains, it helps them to digest it. It creates a better texture to it. Same thing with using these scraps from, the kitchen scraps. I mean, honestly, you're talking some of the best carrot peels you can imagine.
Oh yeah, people would pay a fortune for
it.
Right.
I mean, and these are, and these chefs are hand washing these things. These chickens are eating extremely well, but they just created a system of, hey, here's a bucket with a lid on it. Here's 5 of them. Fill them up when you're done. And I can just see the sous chef walking around, making sure everyone's got a bucket for their veg scraps because of the chickens. And when they come back, they utilize the whole chicken. So same thing. So circling back to it, before we get too spiraled out, like upcycling your equipment. See, in your things, like even when you're walking around your basement, look at other things that you could use. I mean, in my tent right now, some of the best risers that I found were old, cheap plastic. They were for closets, and they were shoes, the plastic stacking things. I've got like 6, 7, 8 of them, and they are perfect to help adjust my plants up and down. There's a lot of the old tables that I have in there, folding tables. I use a lot of my old climbing equipment that I don't need to use for going for outdoor. Upcycle wherever you can, because anything you can save costs for. I mean, sure, you can go on to Amazon or wherever and buy brand new equipment. Yes, we've got a lot of, you can go get discount codes from all of our people around our community. But if you've got it in your basement and you're not using it, use it. Tubs, right?
Dude,
don't go buy them. You probably got 6 in your basement. So just go clean them out.
There's no greater joy than doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Making something useful. And upcycling too is great. I hate to interrupt you, Howling, but I can't let this fucking perfect moment pass without mentioning Jackleg, because he's the fucking DIY king, dude. I was sitting there and I was like, fuck, it's early, but we gotta go right in from that transition, dude.
Yeah,
he's our shit. Is he our shitter?
Yeah,
he's our
shitter. Our shit list
this
week is JacklegGrowin, right? I wanted to remember it was Wicked Growing before. It was Wicked, and then he changed it at the very to a very positive name, Jackleg. We love it. But he is an absolute legend. He grows beautiful plants, and if you need help doing anything, do it yourself, dude. He is the king. Like, he has so many great ideas. I love when he chimes in, because I think the right way. And I'm glad, and I'm happy that he's a part of our community. He always makes me happy. So he's on the shit list. I'll pass it to Johnny. This is Johnny's first shit list, because he failed to show up to school last week. So
yeah, shout out the last shitter, Charles Budkowski, man. Thanks for you being who you are, and that's all you get from me. Fuck off. All right. So moving on to Jacklegs, man. I like, dude, his fucking, like, he grows in bubble buckets, man. That's so fucking cool. The straight DWC, it's way different from anything that I do. It's just the chemistry, man. And I'm not, like, if you want to do chemistry, then be a fucking chemist. I'm a fucking gardener. But I can't do it. It's Admiral, man, because he grows some fucking bangers out of that. And he's jumped in chat with us sometimes when we're in live chats and whatever else. But yeah, he's a stellar dude. He's always around. He's always fucking great attitude. But yeah, so I'll pass it on to you, Stoney. What do you think?
And when I see him around, and you guys know me, what always gets me excited about our folks is the community aspect to it, and just how they're popping around to a bunch of different Discords. And he's always in on the Odin Sons Grow Along. He's always in over on the Girls on the Grow Along. So he's real active within the community. And like you said, he's got some pretty incredible flowers. And he's just, he's a solid dude. He's got that hungry mind for, he wants to build things in DIY. And I think that's another thing that is just so cool about our community, is that if you need something, they're so easy to kind of reach out. And most of the people, because they've figured it out kind of in this background, and they can't really share these cool projects with most people that they're talking to, like the things that they make. If you ask them, they will probably geek out and tell you way more than you need to know about it, and give you way more advice on what you could. And it's always so subjective, because it's like, oh, I did it this way, I did it this way. I mean, even everyone from our community. I mean, even the other podcast hosts that have helped create humidifiers throughout tents, and making them in a way that's no one would have figured these things out, but Monster figured it out, right? And and now if you look at that plan, and he's the most willing to share it, and how many people stack that thing within their system, it's incredible, right? That's what this community is about. DIY. Jackleg really hits on it, so that's where I'm at with it.
Howling, I guess Stoney doesn't want to pass it to you for whatever reason.
I did pass it.
Settle your differences after the show.
He's, you know what? I love this guy, because I finally convinced someone to the Migro way, like, or Migro, however you pronounce it. Like, finally, someone listened to me and bought one of their lights, and it's like, it warms my heart, because I think that Jackleg.
It's almost
I always read it as Jackleg. I'm sorry, Jackleg. JacklegGrowin, I think, has a lot of sensibilities to the way he approaches growing that I do. And the Migro light.
Whoa! Won't put that fucking burden on anybody.
I think that
he is far too sane to be comparable to you, my friend. Don't diss him. This is a compliment.
Poor guy. I thought this was a fucking.
I'm hoping they can take my success with the Migro lights and extend it even further. And I cannot wait to watch what he does with them. He just started getting them in, and they had a little shipping snafu. And I'm sorry for that. But like, once he gets his full light assembled, I can't wait to watch what he does with this, because I think his growing style is going to really complement what those lights can do. It's like, you can go on the one end of the spectrum, and you can get the HLG lights, which are very fantastic lights. But they are like, they're for meth addicts. Like, you have to fucking go and keep going. And like, I'm not that type of person. Like, I don't want my plants pulling me along. I want to pull my plants along. And so, like, I can't wait to watch what he does with these lights. And he's the first person I've been able to convince to what I think is the right side of lighting. And I just can't wait to see what he does. I think he got the Array 8. And you know what? It's going to be wonderful. I cannot wait to see the pictures that he posts with that light.
I'm excited. He's a great dude, and I'm sure we'll guilt him into. Didn't he already say he's participating in the Haze Grow Along? But
he better be.
Yeah, I mean, he has no choice. He doesn't want to hurt Frog's feelings. Anywho, so I had to jump in there. I couldn't let that segue go. I had to stumble into the shitter early, but we were talking about clones. So, Johnny, are you doing anything different to make these ones live?
I'm not going to care anymore. No, I'm just
okay, good.
Nope. I turned my Migro light on to 50% in that tent, and I did, however, squirt them with some rooting hormone. I had forgot to do that the last couple times. I didn't last time. I literally just water, Pete Cube, cloner, and that failed miserably. I've been trying to find just the easiest way to do it, because I've literally taken a cut of tomato, stuck it in water, stuck it in my windowsill, and grown roots from it. So I'm trying to figure out, like, all right, what
bare
can these
minimum
things
input?
take?
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think like you said, a little bit of aloe or some rooting hormone or something like that. You got to give them something.
Yeah.
So rooting hormone, which one do you use? I mean, because what I'm envisioning
I had
is
some
you're saying
from
it's
Clonex.
a spray. Or is it a dip or a spray?
It's a squirt. It's a dip. Yeah. So I have the Clonex dip stuff from the Easy Cloner.
Okay.
I gave him a squirt of that from a syringe inside of the Pete Cube, and then stuck the cut right inside of them both. And then just I sprayed a spritz inside of a plastic bag, folded it over, and set them on the bottom and underneath 24 hours of light with the 50%. It's seedling starting light. So
is the key the 24 hours of light? Is that key, or is that just because you're trying to keep the pace
Yeah,
going?
especially because they were under 12 hours of light beforehand.
Okay.
Like these are monster cuts. I'm hoping monster crop these and get some roots from them. Either way, I know that the Real Green Monster has rooted cuts of these Hella Jellies specifically. So I'm out of the woods. Like I've got roots. I have backups of these plants for sure. So this is kind of an experiment. While I've got the cuts while I was taking them. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sitting here trimming and I'm dropping them all on the bottom of the top of the 3x3 bed here. Just like, oh yeah, cool. And then I was like, oh yeah, I probably take another set of cuts off of these because I have monster crop before. I've gotten roots from flowering plants, and so I was like, screw it, let's try it again.
Now I've seen the trick of dipping in aloe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people even almost like just poke a little hole right through the paddle and literally take the stem and kind of slide it down into it, and that's its true dip. I've seen people actually grow it in it, right? So they just kind of cut a little cube of that and slip it down in there, and in theory the roots are going to grow right through all of the aloe flesh, right?
Yep.
So go that way, and then, or you can go for this sort of Clonex product where you use
honey works too. Honey works well too.
Is it the raw honey though, right? I would imagine
raw
because
honey,
that would be the most nutrient available.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the key. Don't get, if you're getting honey, I mean, I'll say this from a culinary perspective.
Just get honey.
If you're getting honey, you're probably like in the market and it just says honey on it, you're more than likely buying like 60-70% syrup, like sugar syrup with honey flavor and stuff adding to it. So be careful. Watch for it. Get that raw, unfiltered. That's the one's going to keep you if you're local.
It's more expensive for a reason.
Yeah,
it costs more for a reason.
If you have allergies and you're struggling with it, get a local honey, like literally within 20-30 miles of you, and take a teaspoon every morning of it. Just eat it raw. Don't heat it up. Just eat it raw, and you'll start to build up. So
honey is a miracle.
So it can use for also for dipping too, for the sort of cloning. Yeah. Antibacterial also, right?
Yeah.
If you ever get a cut, you put a little bit of honey into it. On the farm,
I've got Dad's blueberry seeds soaking in aloe right now.
Really?
The joints blueberry that we're starting for Dad, so I've got those soaking because you can use aloe as a seed soak as well.
Yep.
So if you don't have that, like I have a little bit of the aloe, the Build a Soil aloe powder, same effect, right?
It's exactly what I'm using. Is the Build a Soil horticultural aloe.
Perfect.
I mean, I would, it's if it does in a pinch and it's great stuff. I think it's even, isn't it harvested all by like aloe grown at the equator or whatever?
Yeah, he's really specific, and I know that they dry it in a very specific way.
Yeah, freeze dried like immediately after harvest. I'm sure like the best obviously is aloe that you've grown yourself always, but that's not always an option.
We've talked about this a while. I remember talking about it last summer, and there's a lot of fasting because I went down, of course, a rabbit hole to try and understand it. But aloe is in its fresh and whole form. I think it still has a lot of value. I mean, I have a lot of Latin markets around me and a lot of Indian markets. So I have accessibility to fresh, really crisp aloe paddles. And I think that that's just as good, oftentimes, maybe even better for the application for it. But I did get a pouch of that aloe and I use it quite often. And like I use it, I almost try and think to myself, like, all right, if my plants are feeling like when I would ever use aloe for a human consumption is when I'm in pain or something needs to heal or they're struggling or stressed, right? It's easy to have that little pouch to pinch in a little bit and kind of it smells a little like pool chemical or like it's a little kind of chemical note to it, whatever. But it's in a pinch, it's right there because I don't always have it. And oftentimes the one that I am growing in my home, it may be on a water cycle and I'll go and cut it and it'll be real dark in color and it'll have a real certain unique and aroma to it that just doesn't seem right to me. And I still come from that old sort of like give the sniff test. If it doesn't feel right or smell like there's something genetically built into us, if it's repulsive to you, don't do it.
Yeah. Don't risk it.
Right. And there's something about breaking open a really fresh paddle. You're like, oh, that's cool. That doesn't, but an older one. So if you've got one in your house, use it at your best. Like only if you have to invest in aloe any way you can. But so a totally natural way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Unfortunately, it's just not everybody has access to the fresh shit. Like it's just, it is. And even if you do, aloe takes a while to grow. So you could, in theory, pretty much, if you're not doing it right and, basically taking care of your aloe supply, you could run through it pretty quickly if you were using full leaves for shit, especially if you're pasty like my white ass, you get sunburn all the fucking time. You use that shit daily.
And don't use
I thought
like
you were green.
Well, yeah, it's green with envy. No,
don't use the aloe water.
I'm as white as my last name suggested.
Just don't use the like the aloe, because there's a lot of like beverages and that sort of stuff which are great for electrolytes for human beings right now, but it's a waste of your time and money. Yeah, it's full of sugar, and it's been cooked and pasteurized, so all of the advantages that you'll be getting to that fresh aloe. So back to your cuts there. So you're just kind of taking them and pop them into a pea cube and popping it into a bag, 24 hours. Then they start to see roots. Like you're going to start seeing them right away.
Apparently, this is the Real Green Monster method, or however he formulated the method, whether it was something he took from somebody else. It's basically his Ziploc bag method, only I didn't have any Ziploc bags, so I grabbed some vacuum seal bags.
Nice.
And then you clear bag, and I folded over the top to...
Can't get away from the vacuum.
Seal it up, kind of. No, couldn't get away from the vacuum. No. I'm sure there's probably some haze lineage in these hella jellies too, so there's probably maybe I shouldn't grow haze because I can't. I'm just fucking. It's the haze issue now instead of the autoflowers.
No, I think we'll have to. We don't have the time to do it on this circle, unfortunately. But we'll have to dive into why you think it did, Herm, unless you know for sure.
No idea. No idea.
I'd like to figure it out.
If you were to guess now, just based on everything that you know and that we've been talking, what would be your gut? All right.
I really don't. I don't have anything for this one. It's always been kind of the runtiest, slowest plant of them all, and it doesn't surprise me. It just kind of
probably it was genetic. Sounds to me.
Yeah, that's my genetics is what I'm leaning towards that one. Yeah,
and it happens. It happens, right?
Yeah. He probably just got intimidated by some of the other ones, because some of the other ones are just fucking. I mean, they're raging. I've never had one as close to the light as these are, and.
It's
just
beautiful.
As healthy as they are, and this one just was not anything like it, so it probably just got intimidated by all the studs growing around her, or all the beauty contestant winners growing around her, that she said she wanted to kill herself. So she decided.
There's always the one, every pair in every group of siblings, like my younger sister, we should have culled her early, but we
I may have been that one in my family. Mother should have drowned me in my first bath. You know how that goes. It is what it is.
Story is all this time.
Not everybody is gonna be, top of the food chain.
But when I first saw Howling, I just assumed that's how people got to the way he looked. Man, he just had to fight being drowned as a child to the toughest survive.
Oh yeah,
it's gotta have been a big.
He does look like a Viking.
Yeah, he does.
Every inch of my beard was another.
It was another bath I survived. Oh man.
But no, so they're just gonna sit there under 24-hour lights and just kind of wait. So we'll see. Just kind of playing around at this point, because I'm not in any fear that I'm gonna lose cuts, because like I said, Monster's got them all. So
you all are more brave than I am, because I know Monster was, for his Patreon supporters, was reaching out about clones, and I can't sign up. I can't bring myself to do it.
You're too afraid?
I'm too afraid. Like, this is, I can't do it. I don't know why.
What's your fear? There's no THC, and then
it's just, I don't know. It's one thing to start something from seed, which we've done for many different kind of plants. It's one thing to take a clone and try to root it, and I think I'm too scared of failure. I can't do it.
So from getting a clone until the time you're able to harvest, what's the advantage? Is it just that you haven't had to deal with the seedling process, you're getting a
you get the phenotype that they were really shooting after. Like, this is like, when you get a cut, it's like, this is the prize pheno. Like, because I've ran a bunch of reg seeds, and you can start seeing a different. And when you get the females, you can start seeing different characteristics of them, and it's like, And there's just that the one. I was like, that's the thing. That's whatever you're looking for. It might be stretch or node spacing or density or whatever it is that you like out of a plant. That's why we trust breeders, is that they're picking these phenotypes, but even within them, you can find more phenotypes out of them that fit your particular style. And with, like in the case of Mazda, is like he has these mother plants that, like, these are the phenos he sees as being the prime pickings. And so if you get a cut of those, you're going to get a slightly watered down version, but pretty close to the mother plant that he is picking as being the prime example of that cultivar. And so that's the thing with clones, is you're going to get whatever the person doing the cutting is provide you, rather than a seed, which can give you like 4 or 5 different phenotypes. Like, you're going to get a cut, and that's it. Like, that is what the mother plant was, and that is whoever cut it, that's what they're giving you.
So if someone were to ask you what the greatest advantage to having a clone, so if we pose that question for all of you, all 3 of you, so the greatest advantage to taking a clone is?
It is the best phenotype that person that cut the clone picked. Like, that is their ideal plant.
Yeah, you can just keep if the medicine works for you, you can guarantee that the same effect will be. If I give you a cut, I'll say this is what medicine that worked for me, as opposed to any others. If just seeds, I'll say in those seeds somewhere is something that worked for me.
You might have 8 different phenotypes out of a seed. It's however, like, that matrix works out with gene expression. But when you take a cut, like, that is pretty close to what the parent was. Like, that is, if I take a cut, that is what I'm saying is the prime example of what I want you to grow.
Basically, if you think about it, if you didn't take the cut, right, and you flowered that mother, you would get that flower. Now, if you take that cut and then you flower it somewhere else, it's the same theory, right? It's the exact same thing as just flowering the mother plant. So you can guarantee the medicine to your patients over.
So I'm hearing that pretty across the board.
Cuts are the way, I think, are the way to selectively get the best plants. It's just,
and that becomes perpetual then too, right?
Yes.
Because you can continue to run that, which is what
you
we
have
hear
a mother
from,
plant,
right?
You just have to reset. You just have to reset and be on top of it.
And I think there's like a certain philosophy. Like, I think you only do like 3 generations or something off of a mother plant, and then you trash the mother at that point. Like, it's watered down, and then you start again. Like, but you can get the same characteristics out of a plant that you are seeking, whatever it might be. It might be physiological, it might be medicinal, whatever it is. That is what you're saying that the people that are growing your cut want to get. You can be a lot more selective.
And as we think about it now in kind of current times and its impact with, we think about the easy access that we've gotten recently to seeds, because it's really easy, cheap to send seeds. There's a lot of less risk going on with seeds, right? Yeah. Fortunately, they're figuring out little carriers, little foam bits, so that your seeds are much more protected around it, right? But to send a clone, it's a risk, right? Where it used to be a risk of sending, like, legality wise, right? Like, you didn't really want to send it because if you got busted, what are you sending this plant for? Oh, it looks like this. Secondarily, I think from a quality perspective, you got to be pretty nervous about it. But even, you're finding more and more, like around in our state, you can buy clones. You can buy clones.
The rule with clones should always be only ever get clones from people you trust.
Right.
Because if you fucking take a clone in from some bullshit guy you bought it from, you're going to fuck your grow over more times than not.
And that may not necessarily just be from the plant itself. It could be from that small little cup of soil that comes in, right? That just has something in it that gets into you. Because, we're very fortunate to have a grow shop that does like outdoor festivals, right? And they're all throughout the state. You can sell clones because it's considered hemp until it moves into flower state, right? So you can sell the clones and buy the clones, and of course, as you said, you can't really trust when someone's just going to give it to you unless you have, like we do, a community that's really tight and someone who's willing to get it, like, trust your resources from it. But then there are places now that are working to really legitimize being able to get clones that really do address it. Because to your point, Rev, like, our grow shop has that. And I know that when I was talking with Nick very, very early on, there was something that he was really cognizant of. He's like, the standard operating procedures have to be dialed in, so they are addressing it, but it's still pretty early on. So it's hard to really trust someone just getting a clone unless you've got a good friend. So sending it in the bag in the PQ was perfect. The way that you were talking
anytime that you have a chance to where you don't know what I'm giving you, there's going to be issues, right? Like, yes, this is a cut of this. Anytime you got to trust someone, there's going to be scumbags out there trying to ruin it.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, or there's going to be not just someone like trying to make a quick buck. There'll be whole organizations that start putting out fake clones because they have more budgeting money, man. It's just inevitable in that aspect, right? But that's why I say, like, just don't consider it unless you trust the person. And you are comfortable, or you have like, what did Moonstone Plants say she had, like a full-on SOP, like you said, Sonny, of like when she sends or receives things,
she won't
like
do it if it's a certain time in the year. The weather
Yep.
has to be just right. I think she even sets aside the plant, so it's kind of, and she recommends that to you too. Yeah, she's awesome about that.
Oh yeah. So like that's just a basic that you should do always, even if you trust someone. But I can't stress enough, man. I've seen some people pick up some clones and then just be like, oh shit, I have, PM, or wow, there's a fuck ton of mites all of a sudden, and it's like, well, what'd you spray your clone with, or how'd you quarantine? No, I didn't do anything. Like, well,
yeah,
brother, nature, balance, those are the only things you have to say if it's gonna happen.
Well, you've been hearing me ask a lot of questions because I'm getting really curious about this whole photo period thing, guys. And I've been talking about this for a while.
Come to the promised land.
I know it, man. I know. There. As we were talking about last time, it's been over a year now. I've got some really trusted breeders with some incredible beans to select from. And I'm really starting to lean towards moving into this photo period world. So all of this conversation we've been having around the herms, nanners, all the way back to honkers, if we might have
what Johnny considers the largest of the line.
Yeah, and I went hard R on that one. So honkers, Johnny. So going all the way back onto that one. We've really kind of pulled those apart. Part of the reason I'm asking a lot of these questions is because I know that they're part of my research and leaning out to you cats for it. And so we start to kind of wind down here. I know that as a part of the community, we've got a lot of different things going on. I know we've been hearing a little bit back from some folks around the Mango Smile. I know, Johnny, you mentioned you gotten a couple emails throughout the course of the week. So maybe we should start to circle back on that a little bit before we start to get to wrapped up here.
Okay, Johnny.
Yeah, the circling back to that was going to be simply, I know we sent out a message saying to send an email. Is that right, Howling? Send us an email, and there was something about a 3 digits. So I think the emails that we got might have been missing that 3-digit number or something. Even I don't like. What's the rules here for this ruleless fucking grow together?
Lay it back out for us, Howling.
All right, hear me out. All right. So in average fashion, just everyone. You got the email. Send out your best picture of your plant. It could be a bud of the whole plant, whatever your representation of that plant is. Send it out by, I think that we said Friday, whatever this Friday is. Oh, now you're gonna make me bring up a calendar.
Let's see, today.
That
would be the 9th, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So send out everything by the 9th. We want to get your picture, whatever the best picture is of your plant.
Also, this episode doesn't come out till the 10th, so this is fucking useless.
Excellent. Anywho, so we'll be reviewing the pictures currently.
Guess what? We're going to be reviewing the pictures that I've already posted about in Discord. That you should have the pictures in by the 9th.
You guys all knew that.
Also, if you're anything like us, we're gonna go till the 11th. So if you're just now hearing this, get off your ass and
we'll give you a day.
Yeah,
send the
fact is our medicine.
Guess what? You're fucking late.
You're late.
If you're hearing this and you haven't sent it, fucking send it, please.
This is an average.
It's all right.
Fashion.
We probably will look at it for just fucking send it.
Plus
to us.
or minus a couple days from whatever.
It's 3 digits. Just choose fucking random ones.
We obviously can't hold you too hard because we literally were talking
We're
about
idiots.
something we didn't. Yeah, we're dumb.
We're just idiots.
Oh god damn it! Brilliant.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So at some point, you should have pictures in by us. See Discord. See all the details there. Email
Call
us
Howling.
your best
Yeah.
picture. And you know what we're going to do is we're going to put
Hey,
together.
have you pinned the rules? Did you pin this?
I
Check the
should.
pin on the Mango Smile in our
Yeah.
Discord. We'll pin the message.
I will.
If you
Check the
have
rules
any
there.
questions, you can also email the fucking email asking questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, you know
Please
what?
email us because you're late. You need to tell us
You
that
late, you sons of
you're
bitches.
automatically disqualified, and I
Well, when our
won
lead-
because
I think there's still like mangoes in soil, isn't there?
I just planted 2 more Mango Smiles.
Oh, there we go.
Jesus
We're
Christ.
just
I
gonna keep
planted
shop
3 Bears
vac
OG
away.
crossed with Mango Smile. No, I did
That
it
doesn't
outdoors
mean that
'cause
we're
I was like,
extending
it
the
was
date
some
again,
freaking
Johnny.
So yeah, there's
No.
still Mango Smile going on. Thanks for listening, everybody.
all
This
I
is
It's
know
still
is
yesterday
so-
that it was due.
Time out. We have to end soon. Is there anything anyone wants to plug? Johnny, do you have anything to plug?
I'm gonna plug myself into the couch for the rest of the night.
Everybody who needs any handyman work, go talk to Johnny. Stoney, anything to plug?
Keep smiling, man. I know that there's always stuff going on. The start of the summertime is always busy and crazy. So stay focused on all of the cool things that are going on around. There's a lot of fun things. Reach out to anyone that you need to. Keep smiling, and that's my big plug. Plug right back into yourself because
There you go.
That's
Look at
what
that.
we
What a
need to
nice guy. Howling, follow up
That
the
was the
nice shit
nicest
with
way I've
something
ever heard
very
somebody
capitalistic.
Plug
Yeah.
back into yourself.
I
That's like,
can't
go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I have to plug in with some positivity here. You know, we have a lot of crossover between all the grow alongs that are going on right now, and I really love it. We have the girls on the grow along. We have our grow along. We have the hazy summer coming up, and then we have maybe a mushroom thing going on. And I was like, there's so much overlap between these communities, and I fucking love it. Bring it on! Like that is my shout out. Is just bring it the fuck on. You're all making me look like I'm an amateur grower, and I love it. Bring it on.
Golden.
What about you, Padre? What are you shouting out?
I ain't got shit.
I ain't got shit. Get off my lawn.
I ain't got shit.
Peace.
Yeah.